All right, so I'm going to get started here. I'm just going to readjust my my computer. Uh, First of all, welcome uh, to FSS Canada here, and my name is Spencer Gray, and it's my pleasure to be in your wonderful city again. I love Hong Kong. Every time I come from Canada, especially this time of year, the weather is a nice change. It's quite uh, sunny and warm compared to some of the parts of Canada. So thank you for inviting me, and thank you to FSS for hosting this. So what I'm going to do today is I would like to uh, talk to you and share a little bit about high school education and some pathway programs to university, as well as look at focus on the homestay part of an international program. But before we get started, I just quickly want to introduce myself and just kind of give you a little bit of background. Again, my name is Spencer Gray. I've been in education since 1995. I started off as a high school, middle school teacher, and I've been in administration now for close to 18 years. So I'm also a judo coach and very proud father and very much an advocate of public education in British Columbia. So I basically, for most of you, you probably are familiar with Vancouver. I live in the capital city called Victoria, which is a quick ferry boat away or an 11-minute flight if you land in the airport. And we'll talk a little bit about that later on. So most of you are probably familiar with Canada, and I'm just going to go through a few overviews of the area and a little bit about the history before I move into the education system. So Canada is made up of 10 provinces and 3 territories. And where I'm located, as you can see on the map down there, is in Victoria, which is the capital city of British Columbia, which is literally the closest Canadian city to your city, Hong Kong. And it's a very easy flight to fly from here directly to Vancouver International Airport. And many of our students will then just hop on another flight for 10 minutes over to Victoria, and then they get picked up. And we'll talk about the homestay pickup a little bit later. So this is kind of what Canada looks like now, minus anything Trump is talking about. So again, we do have the United States to our south, which is our closest friend and partner. This is what this is what Canada used to look like before immigration 200 years ago. So Canada is a relatively young country, founded by Europeans and other explorers, kind of migrating more from the east to the west. But these areas you see are the traditional territories of the Indigenous First Peoples of Canada. So when my ancestors arrived, there were a lot of Indigenous or First Nations people already for thousands of years living on the land. And that's what their territories look like. And you may have heard or read that we have gone through a big process of reconciliation. When Europeans first arrived, we displaced a lot of the first people, and we're trying to reconcile the not so pleasant part of Canadian history. And I believe we're moving in the right direction. We have a long ways to go, but that's the traditional territories that you see there. And the kids, when your sons or daughters come to Canada, they will learn about this. This is part of Canadian history, and it is some of the required courses that students from around the world need to take when they do the education program with us. Yeah, of course, the Canadian flag. We've got our symbolic beaver, and again, we look at our government. We have a centralized Canadian government, and then from there we have the provincial governments. So I'm just going to quickly just stop for a second because I've lost the chat column here, and I'll probably figure it out here in a minute. If you have any questions as we go along, can you please just throw them in the chat, and I'll read it. Right now, I cannot see the chat, so one of my team members here will come in and bring the chat site up for me again in a minute. So high school education in Canada. High school education is a K-12 system. In British Columbia in particular, where I have most of my expertise in my 30 years in education, we kind of have the core competencies, and then within those core competencies, we've got the understand, know, and do. Really, it breaks down to that higher level thinking as students progress through the K-9 system, K-12 system. Most of our students from Hong Kong come to Saanich Schools, which is in Victoria, for grade 9 to 12. After grade 9 to 12, then they look at, after graduation, to going to post-secondary. Within Canada, most of the time, sometimes they'll go to the US and sometimes they'll return home. So we have kind of a choice, passion, explore model that we look at in specifically in Saanich and in British Columbia. So there are prescribed courses that students need to take in order to meet the requirements for graduation. The graduation program starts in grade 10 and finishes in grade 12, which doesn't mean grade 9 is not important or the grades building up to that. But the graduation program, where credits are earned per course, starts in grade 10 and finishes in grade 12. So students need a total of 80 credits, and each course is worth 4 credits. It's not hard to accumulate those 80 credits. That's a minimum. Most of our graduates, especially international graduates, will graduate with over 100 credits. So what we tend to want to promote is for students that come to British Columbia, specifically to Saanich, is to take as many courses as they can. Try different disciplines. Look at, maybe you're really passionate about science, but there's other courses there, elective courses like fine arts and applied skills and trades and so forth, that students can actually take a course to try. It might be something, might become a hobby later on, or it might actually trigger something that says, hey, this is a discipline in science, maybe in engineering, that I might want to get into. So what we try to do, and the schools do a very good job, is blending, bringing those disciplines together in order for students to see the value in taking each one of these courses and how they intertwine within systems within one another. And I think that's very important. There's a lot of systems around the world where you learn math, you learn a language, you learn history, the different sciences. But what we like to do is blend them together. Why is biology and geography and history so important? How can we bring those together? So those are some of the courses that we offer. Just a second here. It's going to move up a bit. Okay, so just going back here, this slide here, because it's being recorded, you can go back and take a look. But this kind of gives you the idea of just kind of at what grade level the certain credits are required. Again, this is a minimum in order to graduate in British Columbia. One of the other parts, that we really promote is the extracurricular sports programs in all British Columbia schools. We believe a well-rounded student is not just academic, but it has that social, emotional piece to it. It also has that big piece of building friendships, discovering who the student is as an individual, And a lot of this happens in school, but also happens in extracurricular sports and programs outside of school. Not necessarily every student has to be part of a sport. They can be part of a club. It doesn't matter if it's the Duke of Edinburgh, it could be the chess club, it could be another activity outside of your standard kind of courses that they do within the school. One of the, as you can see here, we've got the IB diploma. One of our high schools in Saanich is an IB recognized school that offers the IB diploma along with the IB certificates. We have about 50% international students and 50% Canadian students enrolled in the IB program. A lot of students are doing the certificate because as they apply for post-secondary, having an IB calculus and IB physics, biology, history, English is definitely an added bonus to their resume when they're applying to post-secondary. So any sort of advantage that our students have in order to get to the best universities, international students have that advantage as well. So again, when you're looking at a school for your son or daughter, you kind of have to think outside the box a little bit. What are some of the schools offering that may benefit those students or your children in order to get to the best universities that they can possibly get to? A few more extracurricular activities. One of the other pieces of a lot of international programs is, yes, the student arrives, yes, the student is going to school, they're participating in a sport or a club, but a lot of international programs, in order to, again, enhance that social exploration piece of the program, offer activities. So for us, because we are located in Greater Victoria, Saanich, as you'll see, is the bigger area of Victoria. We have the mildest climate in all of Canada. I know people could watch this YouTube video once it's posted back from Nova Scotia, and they say, no, but if you look at the data, Greater Victoria has the mildest climate. Therefore, it attracts a lot of great opportunities to do both indoor and outdoor activity programs within the international program. So as you can see here, we do a little bit of surfing. We take the students, to hockey games. It's really easy for us to get to Vancouver. It's about an hour and 45-minute ferry ride to Vancouver. We take the kids to, skiing to the Rocky Mountains. We take them to the West Coast, to Fino. A lot of opportunities to build friendships. Really, your sons and daughters will be leaving their friend group here and starting new friend groups when they get to Canada. So I'm just going to ask if somebody can come in here and open up the chat room for me. I'm just hoping I'm not missing any questions before I get, oh, here we go. Perfect. So no questions so far. I am going to move to a next piece here. Just going to touch on this study and work in Canada. A lot of our students that come to graduate, and by the way, if a student arrives in grade 9 and completes grade 12, they do not have to do an IELTS exam in order to get into post-secondary institutions. If they arrive in grade 10 and only have 3 years of study, there's a strong likelihood, including their grade 12 courses, including English 12, they'll still need to do an IELTS or an entrance exam to some of the top universities. So a lot of our students from Hong Kong come for grade 9 or 10, 11, and 12, then graduate, some with the IB, some with AP, because our other two schools offer the advanced placement, along with their top grade 12 and grade 11 marks, apply to U of T, they apply to McGill, they have Waterloo, they apply to UBC, University of Victoria, which is right close to where I live. Then at that point there, they'll spend their 4 years doing their post-secondary. After that, and I know there's a lot of changes that people are hearing right now regarding, work permits after, what we call post-degree work permits after they finish their study. Things are changing a little bit, so I'm not going to get into too much detail. I'll leave that to FSS to bring you up to speed, because really the landscape is changing in Canada right now. I don't believe it's for the worse. I believe there's a little bit of balancing happening. It's not having an impact on our high school program. It's actually benefiting our high school program because it's easier to get a study permit from high school into post-secondary than it is to graduate in, say, Mexico or in China and then apply to university in Canada. So the pathway I mentioned at the beginning is very streamlined. So if you're really thinking of sending your sons and daughters in grade 9, 10, 11, 12, you'll really see that pathway open up to many opportunities after high school graduation, which hopefully will lead into work and maybe having the dual citizenship, or your sons and daughters spending more time in Canada and working and contributing to this wonderful country of ours. Why, this slide here, why are we getting a lot of people into Canada to study and the jobs? I think it's really an affordable education. Yes, there's an international fee, but it really boils down to opportunity later on. Again, Canada is it's the second largest country, with a population just over 40 million, with a very large landmass, with a lot of opportunity. You hear right now in the news that we're a little short on enough homes, so we've got a lot of people in the trades being brought in, and a lot of engineers and so forth, in order to make sure we can have enough affordable housing for students and for new families. So again, I kind of talked about, we got the high school graduation, then we've got, the kind of the pathways towards apprenticeship. Again, 1 to 4 years. This is usually at a college. These are people that get into usually the trades, metal fabrication, plumbers, so forth. Then we've got the diplomas and certifications, again, offered at the college. And then, of course, we've got the bachelor degree programs, 3 to 4 years before it branches into graduate work. Just this one here, applying to Canadian universities. Again, a lot of our students, our Canadian local students, go to some of the top universities across the country. Our team, my team that I'll talk about, will help your sons and daughters apply to post-secondary once they've graduated, looking for scholarships. But also, we'll work very closely with your sons and daughters in order to allow them to keep as many doors open as possible. So it's about opportunities. So we'll work closely with them, not a week or two before the application, but we actually start in grade 10, and we start to plant the seed of what it's like to go to university and what preparation, what courses are needed in order to get to the university or universities that they wish to attend. So I'm going to kind of just wrap it up here in the way of kind of the pathway from K to 12 to university. And I'm going to shift my thought process over to what it's like when your sons and daughters arrive in grade 9 and 10 to British Columbia, to Greater Victoria, to Saanich, and how are they looked after when it comes to homestay. So before I jump into that, I'm going to open up the chat again and just make sure if anybody has any questions on K to 12 or pathways, please feel free to type in the chat box. I don't see anything at this time, so you might get a question later on that might pop into your mind. We'll cover it. Don't worry about that. Okay, I'm going to switch over. Somebody give me a thumbs up if you see my new slideshow. It should have a picture of Vancouver Island on it. Does anybody thumbs up that they see the slide with an island? You can see an island. Yep. William's phone. William gave me a thumbs up. Perfect. Okay, thanks. Thanks, William. So perfect, Jonathan. Thank you. So again, break it down a little bit further. I'm going to talk a little bit about our area and then more specifically on the homestay piece. So what you see here is Vancouver. Again, we talked about that. We have a ferry just outside of Vancouver that heads over to what's called Greater Victoria. In Greater Victoria, where you see where this line is that ends, that's all of Saanich. So Saanich makes up a big part of the capital city. It's the second largest city in British Columbia. Vancouver is more your business hub. It has a very strong influence with Hong Kong. You may have family members there. You may have friends there. That's where you've probably heard a lot about Vancouver. And then the other hub is Victoria, which is the capital city. Our primary industry over there is government because it is the capital, followed closely by tourism. It's known as the Garden City. And it's an area that a lot of people, we get lots of cruise ships and a lot of people will come and visit. But it also has a really strong IT as a startup area for IT companies, as well as 3 great post-secondaries, University of Victoria, Royal Roads University, which I'm alumni of both, and amazing universities, as well as Camosun College, which is a great college as well. So I've had students from Hong Kong attend all 3, as well as many universities across Canada. You already know who I am, so we'll move down. So here we're going to kind of I use this slideshow as a building block for new students when it's about June, and everybody's starting to get excited for the start in September. And I get every new student, they join me in a Zoom call, and I kind of talk about what they're going to expect. And one of the big changes for your sons and daughters and for the students that are listening is a new culture, a new country, new food, new friends, new education system, and a new family. But you're not leaving your family here. Your family here is an active participant in the whole experience, but you're going to be with a new host family. And in Saanich, we do our own host families. And it's very important. And I say this to everyone, it is the most important part of our program. If a child has a safe, caring home where they feel like part of the family, they feel loved, then the education will blossom, will take place. And that is why we put so much of our resources back into our homestay, to make sure that your sons and daughters have a place that they feel is like home. They feel they can talk to their host families. They may have host brothers and host sisters. They may have other international students that they become friends with. This is a very, very important part of our program, and one that, we specifically in Saanich spend a lot of time to make sure that the matching and the pairing is done to the best of our ability. So when you come to Canada, over here you've got a medical, so you're going to be placed on medical. So in case there's an emergency, you're going to be able to get help if you have to see a doctor and so forth. So again, it's really important from when you first arrive that you're well looked after, because emergencies do happen. So it's welcome to Canada, but we're going to make sure that we have that safety net around all the students. There's rules when you come to Canada and you come to Saanich. So every program has rules, and that's something that we review with all the students. Now, one of the things is the homestay expectations. So what we do is you apply to come to Saanich, maybe this September, or maybe you're thinking of next September. We also take an intake in February each year because we're a semester system. So in semester 1 is 5 months. It's September to January, where you take 4 courses. And then the second semester is from February 1st until the end of June, where you have another 4 courses. And then we have a two-month vacation in the middle. So when you apply through FSS and everybody's getting excited, we've done our pairing for our host families. We send the profile to FSS. We'll then share it with you. You will then make contact, you and your family, the student and the family will make contact with the new host family. And with technology nowadays, with Zoom and WhatsApp and so forth, it's really easy to communicate. And you get to meet the family virtually before you arrive. So when you arrive to the airport, which is located right in my school district, my host families are there to pick you up. There's no shuttle service or there's no drivers. Your host family will be standing there with a sign saying, hey, and you've already met them, but it's already warm and welcoming. So you're not alone. You get off that plane and instantly you've got your homestay. Plus my staff is there as well. So it's your home away from home. What should you expect? It's definitely a different family than your own here, which is a positive because it exposes you to different cultures, but also allows you to see how other families operate as well. They have rules, expectations, curfews. Like I mentioned, each homestay is unique. They want to know what you're doing. They want to make sure, because they work very closely with us. We don't just take anybody as a homestay. They have to go through mandatory training seminars, cultural competencies. They do thorough criminal record checks. And most of them have been working with us for many, many years. So they want to be an active participant in your son and daughter's education. They want to be part of that as much as we want you to be a part of it as well. So they want to know what's happening in social plans. Again, they may have different customs and traditions than you do here in Hong Kong. So again, what I always ask of my students when they arrive, it's not what you're going to always gain from our culture, but it's what you share of your culture to us. And I think, and no, it's not what I think, it's what I know, is the sharing of your culture allows our students, our families, to become more culturally aware and accepting. And I think that's what this world needs more than ever now. So yes, you learn a lot about our culture and those unique pieces of that family, but you have an opportunity to share your culture with us. And I think that is just amazing. What should you not expect? This is always one I share with new students. It's not a hotel. It's you're expected to keep your room clean, keep your bathroom clean. You'll have your own bathroom and your own bedroom. You're not sharing a room with anyone else. You help with the chores and you help around the house. And they're not, the host family's not your tour guide. Yes, they'll show you around and they'll take you places and they'll take you to hockey games. And spring break is happening for us in the next week, and a lot of our families are taking their international students to Mexico and Thailand and on these great ski trips. So again, but they're not your weekend tour guide. You'll be responsible with our program and your friends to be able to get around the city. Some of the do's and don'ts: we want you to spend time with your family. We want you to communicate your whereabouts. Ask for help if you need it. That's one thing that we really emphasize is we can't read your mind. And I have over 20 staff dedicated to supporting international students in Saanich. And they're like the aunts and uncles away from home. But they can't read your mind either. So always, if you have a question about education, ask. A question about homestay, you have a homestay coordinator, and there's an assistant at the school that you can ask these questions of. So don't keep it bottled up inside. Ask as many questions as possible, and the staff are there to answer them. The homestays are there to answer them. If your homestay invites you to do something, join them. Go to a hockey game, do an outing. We live right on the ocean. We love the outdoors, so maybe take a risk. Try something you've never tried here in Hong Kong, or maybe another place that you haven't been or been to. Don't stay in your room all the time. Don't game. There's appropriate use of technology, and sometimes it's easier to just stay in your room and not come out, but we really want you to get engaged with your family, your new family, and get engaged with your friends. Try not to, if you make plans, don't change them at the last minute. And, it's going to take some time to adjust. So again, ask a lot of questions. And if you need support, we're there to support you. This is kind of the airport. I just always show this. WhatsApp, it tends to be, I know we use WeChat a lot here, but WhatsApp is how we really communicate a lot with homestays and the new students coming over. Yes, we have a school bus. You'll get you'll be put on the list to be able to get to school by school bus, or there's a transit pass. And when you get there, you'll get a SIM card as well for your cell phone. Everybody has a cell phone, and that's the way we keep in touch with you, and your homestays keep in touch with you. So the first few days, yep, there's going to be a lot of jet lag. I get it when I come here. I get it when I go back to Saanich in the next couple of weeks. So, but we're going to show you, we're going to walk you through this process. As soon as you arrive, we're going to do orientations. We're going to introduce you to your school, to your staff, show you where your classrooms are. It's a very well choreographed and organized system to get you ready for your first day of school. Yeah, the culture shock for some can be a bit. Again, language, food, rules, social behaviors, climate, and family. So again, ask as many questions, and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to ask. You can see this is all the new group of students that just showed up this year. We call it the Jumpstart orientation. So that's like the day after you arrive, you've already met new friends, and a lot of these friends will be friends for life. So there's no student that doesn't meet somebody new immediately when they get to Canada. So I know one of the fears that a lot of students have is, am I going to meet somebody new? And in my 10 years of having the privilege of working in this program, there hasn't been a student that hasn't met friends. So again, it's designed for this, but again, all these students are on the same journey in Canada. So, just kind of finishing up here, get involved. Make sure you I always got this, bring the right attitude. And there'll be a lot of things, as you make new friends, there'll be a lot of things that we'll share with you as we go through. But your homestay, they're the ones that are going to be there outside of school for you. So again, spend as much time as you can with your family, learn about them, learn about our culture, and again, share your culture with them and share your culture with us. So I'm just going to kind of finish up there right now, and then maybe if there's any questions and answers, I'm happy to take a couple of questions, and if you want to type them in the chat, that's terrific. Let's open this up. All right. Sandra, William, Jonathan, anybody have any burning questions? Kind of touched on Canada, and I kind of touched on the homestay piece. I could sit here, as people know, I could talk for hours. I'm very passionate about education and about these programs, but anything specific about homestay or about Saanich Schools or education in British Columbia? Okay, if there are no questions, FSS been working with us for many, many years. Do you see anything? Is there a question in there? Oh, there we go. Somebody had to come in. I had to scroll down, so my fault. Okay, William, in general, may I ask how long is the traveling time between homestay and school? Great question. So the traveling time between homestay and school, we try and keep the host families within about a kilometer radius of the school. Now, we do have school buses, so some of the students, the busing might take 15 to 20 minutes. A lot of students can walk to school, ride a bicycle to school. Many can walk to school. We're a driving culture, so a lot of our host families will drive because they're usually dropping off their own students. And we have a great public transit system. So it will range anywhere at the high end of 30 minutes to the low end of right next door to the school. Literally, 3-minute walk. Sandra, as a parent, can I contact my child's homestay parents directly, or do you need to contact the homestay coordinator if I have any questions? Great question. You will become part of this experience. And when you meet with the homestay at the beginning, when we share the homestay profile, you can contact them at any point. Send a WhatsApp message, you can have a Zoom call, an email, a text message. Yes, I want you to be involved, and you do not have to go through a homestay coordinator in order to contact the homestay directly. If there's some sort of concerns or you have some questions, feel free to email FSS. Again, we have a very close relationship with them, and we get back in touch within 24 hours. But to answer your question, no, please have contact with the host family, because they will become your friends as well, and they're looking after your children. So I don't want you not to feel comfortable contacting them. Serena, can we request to change homestay if my kid cannot fit in the lifestyle or meals of the homestay? So we have actually a very scope and sequence type of changing system that actually a lot of districts are starting to adopt now in British Columbia. So one of the reasons that we send our children abroad is to learn skills. And one of those skills that we want students to learn is how to deal sometimes with challenges. And we want to equip these students, we want to equip these children with the tools in their toolbox to be able to have conversations with their homestay. So let's use food for an example. Maybe it's a cultural piece. Canada, yeah, our food is maybe not quite as flavorful and vibrant as it is here in some countries. But again, that's something we want the student with our homestay coordinator, with the family, to work on. Now, if a student just comes to us and say, I want to change my host family because of X, Y, and Z, we always say, okay, let's take a step back for a second. We need, out of respect, to communicate with all parties. So we want to have a conversation with the homestay. We want to have a conversation with the student. Not necessarily together at the beginning. And then what we do is what's called mediation. Sometimes a lot before we'll make, well, no, actually a lot of times before we'll do the move, we'll actually have the host family and the student with the team having a conversation. And a lot of times, you wouldn't believe how many times it's really a communication breakdown. It's one person forgot to say something or didn't ask a question. That way, and I can guarantee you, like 7 times out of 10, it's not perfect. 7 times out of 10, that kind of resolution meeting, that restorative meeting that we have, builds that relationship between the homestay and the student even stronger. But those 3 times out of 10, maybe it's a personality. Maybe it's just not going to work. This is the people business. Things are always changing. Maybe something's changed in the home. Maybe something has changed with the student. So that's something that we will, at some point, if we have to, we would move the student. So it's not a clear, you as a parent contact the agent, say, I want my child moved. There's a process that needs to be followed in order to maintain transparency, dignity, respect, and everything that comes along with people living together. And this method that we use now has worked really well. And what I find as the real silver lining is the students gaining the tools and confidence to be able to have maybe a bit of a difficult conversation. And I know as a parent of 2 adult children now, but those are the skills that I wanted my daughters to have when I wasn't there. So that's what we're there to teach the students as we go through, in a very controlled setting, by the way, in a very controlled setting. So I hope that answers your question. Thanks, Serena. So I don't see any other questions there. And again, I just really want to reiterate that the homestay part of any international program is so important. You will know a good district. You will know a very successful district, one that it's about the child. It's about that experience of that child. Will have a top-notch homestay program. And I'm not saying they're perfect, because when you're dealing with people, there's always a lot of moving parts. But a district anywhere across Canada, or any sort of program, could be in Europe or in Australia or New Zealand, will have a strong homestay program, one that's transparent and very supportive. So definitely something to look for. And that's something we pride ourselves in Saanich. And we put a lot of resources into it, because we know as parents how important it is for those children to be supported. Okay. If there's no other questions, I want to thank you for taking time out of your afternoon. I could sit here and talk all day about this, and I really appreciate you giving me your attention. And if you have any questions about Saanich Schools, about education in British Columbia, feel free to send FSS or April here, or one of her team members, an email. And if they don't have an answer, they can send it to me, and I'd be happy, elated to answer your questions for you as we move forward. And hopefully you choose to send your sons and daughters to Saanich, because they will be looked after, and they will have a life-changing experience, that I can guarantee. All right, everyone. Have a great evening, and thank you once again.